from the station working for you. This is WRTV News at 6, streaming now.
My thing is, like, how many of that billion of dollars or that they're saying they paid out is actually going to people?
A woman receives an unemployment benefits card yet never applied for unemployment. We're digging into how this could have happened.
Help tonight to give Indianapolis's homeless population a roof over their heads. The money coming in, where it's going, and how it's expected to make a difference.
I am not ashamed of my flatness. I am proud of this decision because it's a tough one.
Going flat. It's a decision that more women faced with breast cancer are making. We share one woman's story in the message tonight from a local health expert.
Good evening, and thanks for watching us here on WRTV News at 6. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starantino. First tonight, a story you will only see here on WRTV. A woman says she received an unemployment insurance card in the mail, yet never applied for one. WRTV's Stephanie Wade is looking into what happened and how big of an issue this might be across the state.
It was November when Dawn Mulder received this card in the mail.
At first, I was like, I don't even bank with KeyBank. I didn't even know it was happening. And I was like, wait a minute, is this unemployment?
Indeed, it was an unemployment insurance benefit card. The problem is she never applied for one.
I mean, should I be worried? Does someone have all of my information?
She immediately called KeyBank and asked them to put a stop on the card, then called the state, to which she was referred to go online and report the fraud on the state's website. Today, 2 months later,
I've not heard back from them at all.
Wondering how, as an instructional assistant at a school teaching 4th and 5th graders.
Well, doesn't my employer have to, verify? What employer verified that I wasn't working?
When people like her sister-in-law have had to close their daycare business 3 times throughout the pandemic and actually applied for unemployment.
She's been denied. I haven't even applied for it, and they're handing out money. It's sad for people who really need it.
In last week's press briefing, the Department of Workforce Development Commissioner Fred Payne named this particular kind of fraud as one of many they're seeing at the state.
We have fraudsters purchasing someone's stolen information on the dark web and then filing for unemployment insurance benefits.
He says they're trying to combat this by evolving their tools and technology to verify people's identity.
When claimants are asked to verify their identity through one of our new identity tools, only 60% actually took the steps to do so. That's indicia that the 40% who never verified their identity can't because they may be fraudsters.
And even of that 60% who attempted to verify identity, 23% were flagged as fraudulent. Commissioner Payne says right now, 71% of current claims have fraud indicators requiring investigation.
This means about 3 out of every 4 PUA claims require some sort of additional processing.
Urging people, if you see something suspicious, let them know.
Our commitment is to ensure that we pay every eligible Hoosier the benefits that they're entitled to, not the fraudsters.
Stephanie Wade, WRTV.
If your claim is stolen because of ID theft, the department will ask that you file a report with state police, the Federal Trade Commission, and the state's Attorney General office.
Indianapolis is getting some much-needed federal assistance to help our homeless population. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development awarding millions to programs and groups that help people who are at risk of or experiencing homelessness in the Circle City. Working for you, our Alyssa Donovan explains what the money will go toward.
What's wonderful about this funding is it literally helps us bring from homelessness into housing. People that we would otherwise not be able to help.
The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is awarding just over $7.2 million to Indianapolis. Close to $450,000 of that will go to Damien Center. It's one of nearly 20 programs in the city receiving funding.
We have people that come in our doors every day that we aren't able to help because the funding can only go so far.
Alan Witchey, who's the president of the center, says this money will allow them to house 50 additional families this year.
We help create that stability. And sometimes that's, like a one-time financial support to get them, to keep them housed. And sometimes it is ongoing support throughout the year.
These continuum of care grants support resources aimed at helping families experiencing homelessness and those at risk of losing their homes.
It renews existing projects, particularly around rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing.
The Coalition of Homelessness Intervention and Prevention, or CHIP, is also receiving some of the funding. They work to connect people who are living unhoused to resources in our community. The money will help them continue to assist community partners with permanent housing solutions.
It provides rental assistance for households experiencing homelessness to get back into housing and to help support that housing.
Without this funding, we actually would turn people away and we're able to house them. It doesn't meet the need. There's still people that we can't help, but this allows us to help quite a few people in a really significant way.
I'm Melissa Donovan, WRTV.
Well, the entire state was awarded $26 million in federal funding. 86 programs across the Hoosier state will benefit from this.
A rise in new COVID-related deaths in Indiana, but another drop in the number of newly confirmed positive coronavirus cases. Today, the Indiana Department of Health reports 65 additional coronavirus-related deaths. 9,677 people in Indiana have now died with COVID-19. The State Department of Health also confirms 1,567 additional coronavirus cases. To date, 629,903 Hoosiers have tested positive for COVID-19. Data from the state also shows as of yesterday, 1,624 people were in Indiana hospitals for COVID-related reasons. That's a slight increase from Sunday when 1,594 people were hospitalized. Still, these are much lower numbers than the state had for most of January. Also, about 35% of Indiana's ICU beds are available.
Amanda, I've got three significant headlines in my forecast. The first will be the mix, a wintry mix to all rain on Thursday as temperatures surge into the 40s. Snow potential Saturday night, and I should say accumulating snow potential, and then coldest temperatures in a couple of years. The core of that air will be here Sunday and Monday. Let's look at the snow Saturday night. This model and a couple others showing light snow moving into central Indiana overnight as we go Saturday into Sunday and then pulling away by midday Sunday. If we do get a fluffy accumulation, there are two models that predict anywhere from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. This will be much different than last weekend where it was a heavy wet snow. This would be powdery and light, but it would enable the colder air to really grab hold with the ground covered with snow and set the stage for our coldest temperatures, as we mentioned, since 2019. That's what happens to high temperatures down into the teens and falling on Sunday. We'll zero in on the coldest low temperatures coming up.
This was an empowering decision because it was my decision.
Going flat. It's a term you may not have heard of yet, but it's a choice more women with breast cancer are satisfied with making. We met a Carmel woman who chose to go flat. Tonight, WRTV reporter Nikki Dementri is sharing her story along with advice from an IU health expert.
My official title is Survivor and Fighter.
In October 2019, Gail Fuel was diagnosed with breast cancer.
It knocks you out. I mean, it really takes your breath away.
Due to radiation complications during another battle with cancer in the 90s, Fuel says she knew breast cancer was coming.
I don't think anything really prepares you for hearing the words that you actually do have breast cancer.
The Carmel small business owner says she researched her options ahead of time, joined support groups, looked at photos, and found women going flat. Women, in other words, who did not get breast reconstruction surgery after a mastectomy.
Everybody has a personal journey in this. But I think it's important to know that there are a lot of women out here that have done this and are living their very best life.
Fuel had a double mastectomy 2 months after her diagnosis. Going flat was the next chapter. And a year and some months later, she says she's speaking out to let other women know this too is an option.
Was it easy? No. I will not claim that this is easy. I will not claim this was easy on my husband. I will not claim it was easy from a personal body identification, but it was the right decision.
A recent study on women who are living flat found 74% believed it was the right choice for them. The study, spearheaded by researchers at UCLA, also found 22% of those women say they had flat denial, which means the surgeon didn't support it, they didn't know it was an option, or measures were taken in case a patient decided against it.
I've been practicing for 10 years and certainly had patients who chose to undergo mastectomy without recon, but I would say we're seeing it more often. We're seeing it in younger patients.
Dr. Carla Fisher is field surgeon. From studies, Dr. Fisher says some reasons behind this trend range from not wanting multiple surgeries to a changing body image attitude.
One of the things that I've heard from patients with a diagnosis of cancer, in addition to other emotions, is that kind of loss of control. And I think giving a patient options sort of gives them back that sort of choice of my body, what do I want to do?
Both Fuel and Fisher agree. It's a personal decision, a decision both say should be made knowing all of the options. Nikki Dementry, WRTV.
Fuel also encourages anyone in this position to reach out, whether that be to her or others who decided to go flat. We have resources on how to do that in this story on the WRTV mobile app.
It is Black History Month, so what better time to learn more about the history of the Underground Railroad and the role Hoosiers played in helping slaves escape to freedom. You and your family can travel to a historic home and site in Fountain City, Indiana. That's on the eastern part of the state, just up the road from Richmond. There you'll find the home of Levi and Catherine Coffin, Quakers who helped slaves make their way from the South through Indiana to areas like Canada to our north. You can take a guided tour of the home and hear Levi Coffin's stories. You can see areas of the home used to shelter and hide those seeking freedom. And we talked to Joanna Hahn, who says that seeing these sites and hearing these stories is important to understanding history so that we don't repeat it today.
You know, thank God we have stories like this, you know, in our state where we can show how even from the earliest years of statehood, we were very active in what were considered very progressive movements for that time. And anybody asked today would say slavery is wrong. But we have to sort of get past the generalization sometimes of history and really understand sort of, you know, why was this illegal to participate, even though we think today that was the right thing to do.
Due to the pandemic, face masks are required at the site and they are limiting tour groups, so you need to call ahead. They are open to tours Wednesdays through Sundays and some holidays. Guided tours are for 10 people at a time at either 10:30 a.m. or 1:30 p.m. You can also go to the Indiana State Museum in downtown Indianapolis to learn more about Black history in the Hoosier State. You can take the Black History Gallery tour. You'll learn more about the artifacts in the museum that connect to Black and African American culture and history in Indiana. To buy tickets for this, go to indianamuseum.org. The tour is happening February 5th, 6th, and 12th.
You can get paid to make a big difference, being a lifeline for someone in need. The job opportunities available with the Indianapolis Fire Department. Next in our Hiring Hoosiers report.
Taking weather systems one at a time. First up will be rain returning on Thursday. We'll talk about the second and third opportunities coming up.
Want at tomwood.com.
Welcome back. Hiring Hoosiers is our initiative to connect you with open jobs. First responders are needed right now to help Indianapolis Fire in emergency situations. And as our Lauren Casey finds, these folks working behind the scenes of 911 calls can be a lifeline in your most desperate moments.
There is no such thing as a normal day. Every single call is different, and no two calls are alike. What's your phone number, sir?
We hear their steady voices over scanner traffic.
There are some days that are calm, and there are some days that are chaotic.
WRTV stopped by the IFD Communications Center in Indianapolis.
There's a lot that goes on in this room. I'm going to get someone dispatched for him. He hasn't had any flu or COVID-like symptoms.
Where telecommunicators like Penitra Graves took one of those quiet moments to speak with us.
It's not always as quiet.
She's worked here since August 2010, answering emergency calls and dispatching crews.
It takes a lot of patience, compassion, and multitasking.
At full staff, the center has 34 telecommunicators, including Graves, who is a lifeline in what can be one of the scariest moments in your life.
I've had a person in a grain silo. I've had a major incident where someone had to be lifelined from the scene of a vehicle accident.
So here in Marion County, when an emergency call comes into the dispatch center, it's first sent over here to the police side by law, the Marion County Sheriff's Office. They'll then transfer it over to the Indianapolis Fire Department communications side if it's fire or EMS related. The most important thing for you to remember, if you're being transferred, stay on the line.
Well, we become literally a lifeline. And that's a lifeline to the citizens that are calling in. We can even be that lifeline to the responders.
Cheryl Stevenson is the operations manager. She's worked here for 17 years, but the duty of being a first responder for citizens of Indianapolis is in her blood.
My mom suggested it to me. She was one of the first female and civilian dispatchers ever hired by IFD many years ago.
Her father, an Indianapolis firefighter.
I realized on day one that I found home, that this is something that I feel good about what I do.
And while they don't always discover the final outcome of an emergency situation, both Graves and Stevenson know that they make a difference every day on the job.
That is the most rewarding part of the position.
But it takes the right person to be that hero, and the center is looking for a number of Hoosiers ready to step into that important role.
Great listening skills, being able to communicate with people when they are having the worst day of their life. Show them through your voice, through your tone, that they have reached somebody who cares.
Working for you, Lauren Casey, WRTV.
Anyone applying needs a high school diploma or GED, and they will train you on the more specific tasks. It's a 24/7 operation, 365 days a year, so there is great job security and benefits. But you also have to be flexible when it comes to holidays and various shifts. For a link to apply and more info, just click on this story at hiringhoosiers.com. Kevin.
Well, we'll start our conversation with a little temperature talk, give perspective to where the temperatures are headed over the weekend. Wasn't that long ago. On the 19th of January, we celebrated the anniversary of our all-time coldest temperature back in 1994 of 27 below. Of course, we're in the month of February now. What's the coldest temperature ever in February? 21 below zero. Right now, nowhere in that league, 0 to 8 below the forecasted temperatures. That may change, though, depending on if we get the light snow Saturday night into Sunday and exactly how much we get. But this is the ballpark. 0 down in Bloomington, Nashville, Columbus to 8 below in the northern portion of the viewing area, Miami County, Delphi, Logansport, in those areas. There's your snow-covered infield at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with distant Indianapolis in the background and all that cloud cover hanging over Indy. The clouds have been right through the central portion of the state. Eastern and western Indiana managed some sunshine. 28 in Plainfield, 29 in Fishers. Want to show you there's no hint yet of the Arctic air that it will spill out of Canada and the northern latitudes through the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and really impact the eastern half of the country. Right now, temperatures will be on a warming trend. Tomorrow, 34 or 35 for the high. A mixture of clouds and sunshine. It won't be as windy as today. We had winds gust over 20 miles per hour today. Temperatures range about 6 degrees from the coolest to the north to 36 or 37 in Terre Haute and Bloomington. The wind will be noticeable Thursday, gusting almost to 40 miles per hour. That will draw the warmer air in and ensure any wintry mix becomes rain in the central portion of the state. Those are your high temperatures during the afternoon into the evening. We start dry Thursday. Here comes the push of rain. It might be a wintry mix off to the northwest, and it may change back to a wintry mix before ending overnight into Friday morning. Then it's about the thermometer. Temperatures over the weekend fall, 15 Sunday and falling from there. Again, the potential for light accumulating snow overnight Saturday into Sunday. Monday, the coldest morning. Temperatures well below zero in much of the central Indiana. A modest 14 for the high. We're preparing mentally each day as we get closer. Mark?
Getting ready. We've got some running days up to it. The start of February means March is up next, and that's a big deal for college basketball teams. Important games for Purdue and IU tonight. Brad Brown has a look at both matchups and how just getting to their away game was nearly a huge mess for Purdue.
Purdue's charter flight to Maryland needed a do-over on Monday night. Diverted back to Indy, but eventually they made it out east just fine. It's one of the few hiccups in traveling for the Boilers as of late, as they've won 3 straight on the road. helped move Purdue to 5th place in the Big Ten, winners in 5 of their last 6 games. Maryland has lost some close ones this season. They're just 3-7 in the conference. Purdue won the first matchup 73-70 at Mackey Arena back on Christmas Day.
It's a tough matchup. There's no way around it. Like, you got to be able to match Maryland's intensity, and you got to be able to defend them, but you also have to execute on the offensive end. Like, if you're not going to now flip that back on them, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have a tough time. So it's I don't think that's the total game there, because I think it comes down to like who competes, who plays hard, like who doesn't beat themselves.
Meanwhile, IU finds themselves in the bottom half of the Big Ten standings and facing a tough matchup against Illinois tonight. The Hoosiers have alternated losses and wins in their last 6 games, the latest a frustrating 4-point home loss to Rutgers a week ago Sunday. Indiana's game against Michigan was postponed this past weekend after positive COVID tests at UM, so it's been 9 days between games for IU.
Resting and trying to get recovered is something that we've tried to do a good job of here in the last week or so. Especially after this one, because after this game starts on Tuesday, it's going to be an onslaught in the next 30-some days to get the remainder of our schedule in with 2 games that have yet to be added. So health has been something that we've concentrated on and tried to be mindful of. We've also tried to work. I think it's important to continue to work, even though it is shorter times, to try to stay sharp and keep competing and keep working on your stuff.
It won't get any easier for the Hoosiers. They host 8th-ranked Iowa coming up on Sunday. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
Rivers.com.
A nice January day on the way tomorrow, starting in the low 20s. At noon, we'll be at 30, and I think we'll see more consistent sunshine than today. A mixture of clouds and sun with a light wind. 33 for the high. We'll see you again at 7. World News is next.